And there's one other thing I want to ask you that was also posed to me that I found was really interesting. And this is going to be part of a bigger article that will be coming out soon, that's sort of centered around Kathy Engelbert. But the question was raised to her, A, whether the Caitlin Clark versus Angel Reese sort of perceived animosity is good. And I have firmly stood on the fact that I think it's great. People love these kinds of storylines. But then they asked, should the league be more intentional about fostering rivalries or animus? And as someone that's in this space, I immediately said, I think sometimes, listen, not everyone gets along. We all know that. But I know that as a woman, when you are a subgroup in a space, we tend to want to flock together. Even if we don't personally like each other, we tend to sort of keep that in-house. And I wonder if you think, am I missing it? Are there some deep-rooted angst and hate storylines beyond just Angel and Caitlin that we don't know about?
I don't think so, especially with
Right.
what social media is now. I
Right.
think players are very vocal
Yeah.
about what they want to say. So I don't necessarily think that, and I agree with you. I think this rivalry has been incredible for the WNBA, proven by the highest rated games are when Angel and Caitlin play one another, which is remarkable when they played, because they haven't played since June, when they played in the earlier part of the year, like neither of them was in the playoff picture.
Mhm.
And yet everybody wants to watch those two go at each other. So I think for the most part, it's been really healthy and good for the league.
There's no questioning that Dejanay Carrington hasn't added a new enemy, multiple enemies to her list because
The
she
entire
basically
Indiana fan
Yeah.
base,
she
right?
she denounced the entire state of Indiana and the entire city of Indianapolis. Rebecca, my last question for you though, because we're starting to see that, right? And it's even more prevalent because it's on social media and we can get immediate reactions on social media right after games. Did you hear it more like as a member of the W, like playing in New York, or during your time at UConn when you'd go into like hostile campus? Like what was in your experience, what was more hostile playing in collegiately or like your time in the dub?
No issues at all collegiately, partly because in those days when you went to play, even at home or on the road, there wasn't much of a student population there. It was all like older people. That's who the fan base was for women's basketball. But I'll tell you, the most hostile place I ever played was Madison Square Garden when I was a member of the New York Liberty. And we were losing and I wasn't playing well. And like the stuff people would yell from the stands coming in and out of the tunnel. So I played there as a member of the Connecticut Sun. I played there when I was playing for the Houston Comets. The worst the New York Liberty fans ever were when I was wearing their
No.
uniform.
It'd be your
Leave our
own
queen
kind.
Rebecca alone.
It'd be your own friends. Well, I was laughing at the UConn question because when Rebecca was playing at UConn, I feel like most of the people that came to the games, even at the
Correct.
other respective colleges, were really there to see UConn. So there really wasn't a whole reason to do that. But you mentioned that the last time Caitlin and Angel played, they weren't even playoff teams. They are now. The Fever, of course, streaking towards the playoffs, sitting at number 7 right now, and the Sky sort of moving the opposite direction, trying to hold on for dear life, even though they sit in that 8th spot right now. So table set this game for us. I mean, what's it ultimately going to be decided by? Because right now you're going to assume that the Fever are going to come in as heavy, heavy favorites. How does Chicago pull this off at home?
It might partly be decided by COVID. Kennedy Carter missed Chicago's last game in health and safety protocols. If she is still, unable to play, that will be a huge blow to the Chicago Sky. Kennedy Carter's having a phenomenal season. There's not a single player in the WNBA defensively I have seen that can actually keep Kennedy in front of them when she's trying to get to the basket. She's averaging around 17 per game. But these are two teams that are going in very different directions. Indiana has won 4 of 5. Chicago has lost 5 of 6. And part of it is because of the Marina Mabrey trade. You know, Chicago chose to trade Marina Mabrey away right before the Olympic break. She was at the time one of only 3 double-digit scorers. She's gone. Now they only have 2 double-digit scorers in Kennedy Carter and Angel Reese. So I think it's going to be really tough if Indiana has what's become now a typical offensive night. If Lexi Hull's making threes, if Kelsey Mitchell continues her ridiculous play of 20-point games, I think it's going to be hard for Chicago to score enough points to beat Indiana. But it's really been interesting to see their journey since the Olympic break.
And wait, just to make an old lady happy, because breathing down the Chicago Sky's neck, the
Oh, here
Atlanta
we go.
Dream, the Atlanta Dream. Howie, How we looking, RL? How we looking? Because this is a team that at one point it was like, well, yeah, I'm in group chats with my friends that are Dream fans, and we're like, well, let's just tank and let's get Paige, right? Like that. Let's just do that. But they have, since the All-Star break, just come out on a tear. Do you think they can actually make a playoff run?
I do think they can. I think they can catch Chicago for a couple of reasons. They're finally healthy. Ryan Howard missed a ton of games before the Olympic break. Jordan Canada missed most of the first part of the season. Both of those players are really important to what they're doing. Tina Charles with a triple-double in her last game.
Let's go.
She has been she's been phenomenal. And it's also important to remember Atlanta does not have their first round pick for next year. They traded that to Washington. So even Elle, if they finish out of the playoffs, that lottery pick is going to Washington.
Ugh.
Whereas for Chicago, not to get too much in the weeds, but it's interesting. Chicago has a pick swap with Dallas, and Dallas has the priority. But right now, Dallas is below Chicago. So if Chicago doesn't make the playoffs, they will still keep their lottery pick as long as Dallas is below them. So there's more incentive to me for Chicago's, and I think it's one of the reasons the front office made the decision they did with the Mabry trade. There's more incentive for Chicago to not be in the playoffs. There's no incentive for Atlanta to not be in the playoffs. So, and also Atlanta's whole and healthy, and Chicago is just, trying to find their way after that trade and with Kennedy's illness.
Wow. So what you're saying is hopes of Paige Beckers was always a pipe dream. Okay, I'm going to see myself out. Rebecca's used to this foolishness. Rebecca
I love it.
Lobo, you're amazing. We love you. Please come back on the program all the time and put Gary in his place. Thank
What?
you.
We were in lockstep.
No, you were not. Thanks,
Rebecca.
RL.
Thank you.